They're forced to work 18 hours per day, and failure to do so may lead to death. Small cells are shared with 90 other inmates, rats, cockroaches, and deadly diseases. These are the 20 most dangerous female prisons in the world.
The prisoners here are among the most dangerous. They're locked down for 23 hours a day and have no contact with the rest of the institution.
Number 1. Julia Tutwiler Prison. Located in the depths of southern Alabama, the Julia Tutwiler Prison for Women, formerly known as Wetumpka State Penitentiary, carries a notorious history. 1942. The facility was renamed after prison reform advocate Julia Tutwiler, who campaigned for prison reforms throughout her life, and it was once widely regarded as a symbol of hope in the midst of despair. But don't be misled by the history behind its name. The reality behind its walls is far from ideal. In fact, it's earned a spot among the 10 worst prisons in the U.S. Reports of officer-on-inmate violence have prompted investigations, exposing a disturbing pattern. Corrections officers have sexually assaulted, beaten, and subjected women to all kinds of harassment inside the aging prison for decades, according to an unfolding Justice Department investigation. Shockingly, more than a third of the prison staff has engaged in sexual relationships with prisoners. Desperate for basic necessities like toilet paper and sanitary pads, these women found themselves trapped in a degrading cycle. And despite the known high rate of sexual misconduct, the prison's warden and correctional officers have consistently punished and humiliated those who dared to report the abuse, routinely placing them in segregation, stripping them of their property, denying them contact with their families, and forcing them to submit to unwanted medical procedures.
The terrible experiences is when you see officers that are actually attacking inmates or sexually abusing them, and you're told you better not say nothing or you're in trouble or you can be in seg next.
A former inmate spoke candidly about the horrors within Tutwiler, revealing a constant state of vulnerability and fear.
You're always at risk. It's not safe to take a shower. It's not safe to go to sleep when certain officers are in the dorm. You can be extorted. You can be manipulated into sexual favors. It's really horrific.
Julia Tutwiler Prison is undeniably a chilling testament to the darkness that can lurk within the walls of so-called correctional facilities. However, it pales compared to the next prison on our list, which could give Gitmo a run for its money. Number 2. IK2 Mordovia. Within the heart of Russia's central region of Mordovia lies a place dreaded by women like no other. From harrowing tales of kittens meeting fiery fates to prisoners losing fingers in a rat-infested sweatshop, the horrors within these walls are unimaginable. In the words of Russian inmates,
"If you haven't done time in Mordovia, you haven't done time."
September 2013, a chilling account from a Russian activist shed light on what happens behind IK2 Mordovia's walls. She exposed the brutal conditions of slave labor, where women were forced to work for 16 to 17 hours a day, with only a day off every 8 weeks. She also mentioned that inmates would occasionally lose a couple of fingers while operating the saw machines, and nobody would even bat an eye.
They have quotas, and if you don't make your quota, then you're invariably punished, and those punishments could be official, like being put in solitary confinement, or unofficial, where they have other prisoners beat you up for not making the quota.
The conditions at this facility are downright medieval, and women would often resort to extreme measures to avoid being sent there, from getting themselves sick by swallowing nails, to even completely cutting off their wrists so they would be unfit to work. There's all kinds of desperate acts to evade the clutches of Mordovia. Not only this, but the prison is plagued by rats. To tackle this issue, prison officials have resorted to using cats to control vermin. These felines face a cruel fate. To prevent their population from growing, prison officials resort to the unthinkable, disposing of newborn kittens in furnaces. And now, with Mordovia behind us, our next stop unveils another chilling chapter in our list of 20 most dangerous female prisons. Number 3. HM Prison Style.
is one of Britain's most notorious places.
If you visit Style, it's something of a shock.
Located in the peaceful countryside of Cheshire, England, HM Prison Style is a closed-category facility housing adult and young female offenders. Its history dates back to 1898, when it served as an orphanage for vulnerable children. However, in 1962, it underwent a transformation and became a prison exclusively for women. Over the years, Style Prison has gained a notorious reputation, with one of the highest self-offing rates in England and Wales. It's not only considered one of the toughest correctional facilities in the UK, but it's also plagued by pervasive issues of bullying and drug abuse within its walls. Overcrowding has also led to a series of tragic deaths. And despite a 2004 report by the Queen's Chief Inspector highlighting the risks inmates face, little has been done to improve their quality of life, and tragic incidents continue to stain Style's dark history to this day.
I've seen women try and take their eyes out.
They used to swallow razor blades, swallow batteries.
You can be walking up the wing and all blood will be seeping under somebody's door.
2020, a woman serving her sentence experienced the heart-wrenching loss of her stillborn baby in the prison's toilets. Despite her repeated pleas for medical assistance, several hours passed before she received help. The prison radio system failed when an ambulance was finally attempted to be called, and no attempts were made to perform CPR on the infant. Proper medical attention could have potentially saved the baby's life. As a result, the Prison and Probation Ombudsman initiated an investigation into the prison in 2021. However, no information has been made available regarding the measures taken to improve the conditions for the women incarcerated there. Number 4. Lowell Correctional Institution. Located in Marion County, Florida, Lowell Correctional Institution is one of the largest female prisons in the U.S. The prison, the first of its kind in Florida, opened its doors in 1956 and has housed some of the most notorious and terrifying female criminals in the country. From Rachel Wade, a killer driven by romantic rivalry, to Tiffany Cole, who was found guilty of heinous crimes of kidnapping and first-degree murder of a husband and wife in Duval County, Florida, and was sentenced to death. However, Sheila LaBarre takes the crown as the prison's most chilling inmate of all time. Serving a life sentence without the possibility of parole for slaying 2 men, Sheila the Peeler earned her nickname due to the horrifying methods she used to torture her victims. During her trial, she even claimed to be an angel sent by God to punish pedophiles. As if that weren't enough, the prison recently experienced a tuberculosis outbreak, resulting in 7 confirmed cases. The baffling part is that no one knows how the disease managed to infiltrate the prison walls. Adding to the prison's dark history, in 2014, Latondra Ellington, a female inmate, died under suspicious circumstances just 24 hours after writing a letter to a friend in which she detailed the abuse she had been enduring for someone she referred to as Sergeant Q, who she claimed had threatened to kill her.
As no one from the prison has explained how the woman was killed, and tonight the family told me they know who's responsible and they want justice.
Well, it's safe to say that there are few places worse for female inmates than this prison. Number 5. Grand Valley Institution. Located in Kitchener, Ontario, the Canadian prison is known for its fearsome reputation. It gained worldwide attention due to the tragic death of 19-year-old inmate Ashley Smith, which sparked a massive legal inquest and started up controversy. October 19, 2007, Ashley Smith tragically took her own life by strangulation while under self-harm watch. Shockingly, even with guards monitoring her through video cameras, Ashley managed to strangle herself using a strip of cloth. It took a staggering 45 minutes before guards or supervisors finally entered her cell and confirmed her death. Following this horrific incident, both the warden and deputy warden were dismissed from their positions. The guards and supervisors who were supposed to be keeping an eye on Ashley were initially charged with negligent homicide. But guess what? Those charges got dropped a year later. So yeah, this prison is definitely not a place you want to end up in. Number 6. Indiana Women's Prison. Established in 1873, the Indiana Women's Prison holds a significant place in history as the first adult female correctional facility in the United States. This institution has gained notoriety for accommodating inmates with diverse special needs, including mental illnesses, disabilities, pregnant women, and the elderly. With the passing years, the prison has undergone transformations. resulting in a staggering surge in population. In 2015, it housed over 600 prisoners. Although it does possess death row for women, no inmates are currently awaiting execution. Nevertheless, the facility has housed its fair share of high-profile criminals. Among them is Clara Green Gibson Carl, who infamously murdered her husband. Another inmate is Sarah Jo Pender, currently serving her time in solitary confinement after escaping from the Rockville Correctional Facility, and Brandy Worley, who shocked the nation when she killed her 2 children in 2016. However, it's Gertrude Baniszewski who captured the most attention. In the late 1960s, she tortured and ultimately took the life of 16-year-old Sylvia Likens. This crime has been labeled the single worst crime perpetrated against an individual in Indiana's history. But sadly, this prison doesn't even come close to what we're about to unveil next in this spine-tingling exploration. Number 7. Karchik Prison. Known as Iran's most notorious women's prison, Karchik faces many grave issues, with overcrowding being a prominent concern. It's in the middle of the desert and lacks clean air and water. It was first built as a cemetery, then a farm, so naturally its facilities and infrastructure aren't fit for human beings. A disturbing report by the human rights activist news agency revealed that Karchik's 7 sections house over 2,000 prisoners, with 200 to 300 incarcerated in each section. The prison's total area doesn't exceed 1,500 square meters, with the sections, administration, and other parts occupying a mere 400 square meters, leaving each inmate with a space of only about 20 centimeters. There are no rooms in this prison, but one hall, having 600 beds. The remaining prisoners, including approximately 1,400 individuals and some children, are forced to sleep on the floor. Reports indicate that inmates suffer various forms of torture, including sexual assault, while the prison management subjects them to insults and physical abuse, intensifying their psychological distress. The prison is also full of vermin, and the heat and lack of spraying have aggravated this issue. Many animals, such as rats, salamanders, lizards, water sleuths, bees, and even poisonous tarantulas also find their way into the prison. The prisoners here don't have access to medications or even ways to deal with lice, leaving no other option but to shave their heads. In short, Karchik is a true living hell. Every aspect of this prison seems intentionally designed to torment rather than rehabilitate or protect, defying the very essence of what a prison should be. But sadly, it's not the last of its kind on our list. Number 8. Tashkent Women's Prison. Uzbekistan. Nestled next to a chemical plant lies a women's prison that stands as a testament to the country's brutal reputation. Within its walls, inmates are treated like animals, subjected to abuse, and forced to endure grueling 16-hour workdays. This colony houses women and girls aged 14 and above, convicted of criminal offenses. However, the conditions within this place fall far below the established norms of Uzbekistan's so-called legislation. Even pregnant women aren't spared from the demanding labor. They're required to work until the moment of childbirth to be able to afford basic necessities and groceries. And when it comes to giving birth, female prisoners are transported to a district hospital located 10 kilometers away. Reports indicate that these women are subjected to unsanitary living conditions and are forced to purchase necessary hygienics themselves. Disturbingly, many women choose not to disclose their pregnancies during the first 12 weeks out of fear. Prison staff would often pressure them to terminate the pregnancy, prioritizing their labor. This cruel practice increases the risk of miscarriages and other complications. Such cases are often concealed by prison staff. Mothers in custody have little control over the treatment of their children. Prison staff make the decisions regarding food, healthcare, education, and even the amount of time they can spend with their mothers. Not only that, but mothers behind bars are typically allowed only 1 hour a day to see their children, even when that child is unwell. Some prisoners have reported witnessing their kids bearing bruises inflicted by prison officials. Still, they usually decide against voicing their concerns, because they're usually intimidated by threats of solitary segregation and long prison terms. And from Uzbekistan, our journey takes us to South Africa, where another notorious prison awaits, looming over the lives of its incarcerated women. Number 9. Pollsmoor Prison. Welcome to the infamous hellhole known as Pollsmoor Prison. Situated in Cape Town's Takei suburb, it's considered one of the world's most terrifying max security facilities, accommodating both male and female inmates. The prison's most famous resident was none other than Nelson Mandela, who described Pollsmoor as the truth of Oscar Wilde's haunting line about the tint of blue that prisoners call the sky. But what about its most famous female inmate? Nicknamed the Scissor Murderess, for reasons you can only imagine, 18-year-old Marlene Lenberg was convicted of stabbing Susanna Magdalena Vanderland, the wife of her 47-year-old lover, Christian Vanderland. The youngest woman to be convicted of murder in South Africa, Lenberg was immediately sentenced to death, only to have it later reduced to a life sentence. A short stay in this prison can turn into a death sentence, as was evidenced when 2 inmates recently died of leptospirosis, a disease spread by rats. Former inmates recount the grim reality of overcrowding, with approximately 70 people crammed into tiny cells, forcing them to sleep on the floor. Basic amenities are scarce, with a single toilet and shower with no hot water shared by all. And on average, the inmates are permitted outside the cell for exercise only once a month for about an hour. Speaking under anonymity, an official working at the prison revealed that 4 mentally ill inmates were being sexually assaulted after lockdown when most of the staff went home. But the wardens just shrug and say, that's what happens in prison. But are prisons really meant to be like this? Aren't they supposed to focus more on rehabilitation rather than punishment? Sadly, the horrifying stories we have today show that reality falls far from this ideal. And these distressing accounts don't end here. Number 10. Kachan Concentration Camp.
Food rations. Rice. It's not properly supplied. It's soaked in water and given as porridge. It's not edible. It's spoiled, rotten, and has a terrible smell. There was an escapee, and they shot the escapee. Every prisoner is then grouped together and told that whoever escapes will meet the same end.
Let's be real. A prison camp in North Korea could never be a pleasant place. The camp lurks behind a small hill just east of the city center, and it's one of the largest prisons in the country, stretching about 1,000 feet long and surrounded by a towering wall, topped with deadly barbed wire. Inside, you'll find a mix of political prisoners and a handful of regular criminals. But the place doesn't differentiate, and it's notorious for its brutal sentencing and unforgiving conditions. The inmates are subjected to grueling labor in the camp's factories and are forced to work for a staggering 18 hours per day. If they don't work fast enough, they face brutal beatings. Some even have to sleep right where they work just to meet production demands. It's no surprise that accidents are frequent, leaving many prisoners crippled from both the work and the torture they endure. When it's time to rest, the prisoners are crammed into flea-infested rooms, with 80 to 90 people squeezed into nothing more than 30 square meters. And don't even get me started on that bathroom situation. They're only allowed occasional access to a single toilet, which has to serve about 300 people. Showers? Well, those are a luxury that only come around every few months. As for food, they're given about 100 grams of broken corn 3 times a day, along with a salt soup. And if they dare to break any rules, those rations get slashed even further. A brave female survivor reported that prisoners even killed rats and ate them raw in order to survive. There are 78 punishment cells in this camp where prisoners are locked up for several days. Afterwards, many of them are unable to walk and some even die. Prisoners are often beaten, kicked, or whipped. And as with all prison camps across the country, public executions are commonplace and usually done in front of all the prisoners. Now, after hearing the horror stories about this dreadful place, you probably think that making it out alive must be quite a rare accomplishment. And you'd be absolutely right. In fact, a female inmate who managed to survive for 2 years revealed that around 20% of the prisoners didn't make it out alive. Number 11. HM Prison Holloway. Closed for business as recently as 2016, HM Prison Holloway was one of the most famous female prisons in the entire world. The largest in Western Europe, Holloway was also primarily staffed by female officers, making it the first of its kind. The prison was first opened in 1852 and was originally designed for both male and female inmates. However, after an increase in female criminals, officials decided to turn it into a prison exclusively for women. Famous for its tough stance on bad behavior and harsh conditions, Holloway was also home to a number of notable criminals, from suffragettes to prisoners of war. Holloway was also home to notorious child killer Myra Hindley. Hindley, who together with her then partner John Brady, killed 5 children during the late 60s in Manchester, England. Throughout the years, the prison has been subjected to many songs, movies, and TV shows, becoming a strange tourist attraction. Sadly, however, there's also been many self-off cases, with the last one occurring in 2016, only months before its eventual closure. However, rumors are circulating that the prison may reopen in the near future. Only time will tell whether this decision will lead to further unfortunate incidents within its walls. Number 12. Metro State Prison.
State Prison in Atlanta, Georgia. The place every female offender in the state begins hard time, and where they get their first taste of Georgia's paramilitary system.
Metro State Prison was once one of the most feared prisons in the whole of the United States, located in Atlanta, Georgia. The prison was initially a male prison, but transformed into a female one due to a number of female convicts residing closer to the prison itself. The prison was said to be so awful that a number of inmates attempted to take their own lives just to get out of there, with one convicted killer doing just that. Sentenced to life in prison for poisoning 2 of her husbands with antifreeze, Lynn Turner took her own life by overdosing on blood pressure medication. Also renowned for its long and intimidating death row, the notorious walkway area was once described as a path to hell itself. After being closed for a while, Metro State Prison reopened its gates in 2018, and it continues to terrify those unfortunate enough to end up there. Number 13. Ilong Women's Prison. Residing in the northern province of Heilongjiang, China, is their women's prison, renowned for its tough stance on wayward prisoners. However, this prison was in the news recently when a Chinese woman revealed that she had withstood severe abuse and torture for nearly 3 years. The woman claimed to have received the torture due to her faith and was regularly handcuffed from behind, held in isolation, and beaten by prison guards and other inmates. The prisoner also claimed that guards were so desperate to make her renounce her faith that they would do so by any means possible. However, that was one of the least of her worries when it was revealed that the prison had also been investigated for illegal organ harvesting when prisoners complained of having their blood taken from them without consent. All I can really say is, wow. Number 14. Changi Prison. Changi Prison, located in Southeast Asia, is one of the most infamous prisons in that region. Not only is it the oldest and largest prison in Singapore, but it also boasts a fascinating history. Originally constructed in 1936 by the British colonial government, Changi Prison was built to accommodate Singapore's growing number of prisoners. At that time, the city-state was experiencing rapid growth and needed a larger facility to house its inmates. Designed to hold up to 600 prisoners, Changi Prison gained notoriety during World War II when it served as a prisoner of war camp for Allied soldiers captured by the Japanese. In the 1950s and 60s, Changi Prison symbolized Singapore's struggle for independence. Political prisoners were held within its walls due to their anti-colonial and nationalist activities. After gaining independence, the prison played a significant role in Singapore's development, as prisoners were utilized in various industries such as farming and construction. And today, Changi Prison remains an active institution and plays a crucial role in Singapore's criminal justice system. Known for its strict discipline and harsh conditions, it's earned a reputation as one of the most notorious prisons, particularly for women. The atmosphere within its walls is constantly tense and hostile, while the living conditions are far from sanitary. Number 15. Rikers.
If you can survive Rikers Island, you can survive anything.
Nestled in the East River between the Bronx and LaGuardia Airport lies Rikers Island, a colossal correctional facility infamous for its grim reputation. Housing approximately 10,000 inmates daily, the facility is widely regarded as the worst place to be in, especially for women. With a long troubled past filled with violence, inmate abuse, and neglect, Rikers Island has faced mounting scrutiny from the media and judiciary. Not only that, but uniformed officers and civilian staff have endured frequent assaults by inmates, often leading to severe injuries. May 2013, Rikers Island was ranked among the 10 most notorious correctional facilities in the U.S., and in 2015 alone, there were a staggering 9,424 reported assaults within its walls. The mistreatment of women within this facility has sparked widespread outrage. Inmates have courageously spoken out about the inadequate access to menstrual care, recounting scenes of guards throwing tampons and sanitary pads in the air to watch inmates scramble over each of them. Additionally, several former inmates have disclosed repeated sexual assaults perpetrated by male corrections officers. Even female visitors have reported mistreatment, with some alleging they were molested during entry searches when visiting their loved ones behind bars. October 2019, the NYC Council voted to shut the notorious Rikers Island by 2026, a glimmer of hope for the thousands who have suffered within its walls. Yet we wonder what further horrors await those trapped behind its grim gates until that long-awaited day arrives. Number 16. Adapana Agrahata Central Prison. Adapana Agrahata Central Prison, located in the Indian state of Karnataka, is the largest prison in the region. Despite its intended capacity of 2,200 inmates, the facility currently holds a staggering 4,400 individuals. As a result, overcrowding has become a significant issue, leading to a cramped condition where it's not uncommon for 8 to 9 prisoners sharing a single room. The prison houses both male and female inmates, and recently a disturbing revelation came to light. It was discovered that some prison guards had been involved in a despicable scheme of selling female prisoners to their male counterparts in exchange for money. Initially, these claims were denied, but further investigation revealed that certain female prisoners were forced to work in the kitchen during the night, allowing the guards to carry out their illicit activities without detection. Fortunately, several prison guards were removed from their positions after a thorough investigation. Number 17. Silverwater Women's Correctional Center. Located in Silverwater, west of Sydney, New South Wales, the Silverwater Correctional Complex is one of Australia's largest max security prisons. It's also the country's toughest women's prison, where violence erupts daily, and 90% of inmates are drug addicts. The prison is renowned for the creepy and frightening inmates that have languished behind its terrifying walls. In fact, the prison was once home to one of Australia's most famous female prisoners, Alice Lynn Chamberlain Creighton, who was wrongfully convicted of killing her 9-week-old daughter. Chamberlain continuously maintained that a dingo had eaten her daughter after a child had been taken from her tent on a camping trip. Initially sentenced to a life prison in 1982, Chamberlain was eventually released after the final inquest in 2012 revealed, guess what? A dingo had really eaten her baby. Number 18. La Mesa Prison. Located near the Mexico-US border, La Mesa Prison is famous for its tough women, brutal conditions, and violent riots. 2008, this place was a total mess. 2 deadly riots happened within days of each other. The first one kicked off on September 13th and ended with the death of 3 inmates after prisoners got angry at the death of another inmate. Just a few days later, another riot broke out, and a whopping 19 inmates ended up dead. Why? Well, they were denied water as a consequence of the previous riot. And now here's where things get interesting. Despite all this chaos, La Mesa Prison is also known for Sister Antonia Brenner, a Catholic nun who was like a mother to the inmates. They called her La Mama, or the prison angel, because she actually chose to live in the prison for over 30 years. She was always seen taking care of and cooking for the female inmates. Number 19. Federal Medical Center, Carswell. Have you ever heard of ADX Florence? It is the most dangerous and strict supermax prison in the US. Now that place is home to some of the most dangerous criminals who required the tightest control. We're talking about individuals whose escape would seriously threaten national security, like the infamous El Chapo. But what about the most dangerous women's prison in the country? They're housed at the Federal Medical Center, Carswell, in Fort Worth, Texas. These women are classified as special management concerns due to their history of violence or escape attempts. Carswell has faced media attention due to incidents of inmate abuse by prison staff. These incidents, along with the presence of high-profile prisoners, have put the spotlight on this facility. Now let's talk about some notable inmates at Carswell. One of them was Lisa Marie Montgomery, who was the last woman under a federal death sentence. She committed a horrific crime by murdering a young pregnant woman and cutting the unborn fetus from her womb. Montgomery faced the ultimate punishment and was executed on January 13, 2021. Another inmate is Kristen Gilbert, a former nurse, convicted of murder in 2001. She deliberately injected 4 patients with fatal doses of the heart stimulant epinephrine. Gilbert's actions were a betrayal of her profession and a grave violation of trust. And then there's Emma Coronel Spuro, the wife of El Chapo. And now, our final stop, a place witnessing nothing short of pure carnage. Number 20. Tamara's Women's Center for Social Adaptation. The Women's Center for Social Adaptation is a women's prison located in Tamara, Honduras, about 29 kilometers northwest of Tegucigalpa, the nation's capital. The prison currently houses between 800 and 900 inmates, which is double its intended capacity. Unfortunately, the prison has been a hotbed of conflict between rival gangs, specifically the 18th Street Gang and MS-13. The violence within the prison was escalating rapidly until all hell broke loose.
Tonight, anguish and anger in Honduras after government officials say a gang slaughtered at least 46 women inside a prison.
June 20th, 2023, members of 18th Street launched a brutal attack, resulting in the horrifying massacre of 46 fellow female inmates. According to relatives, the inmates had been receiving threats from the notorious 18th Street Gang for several weeks. And shockingly, the gang members managed to acquire prohibited weapons, bypassing the guards, and carried out their deadly assault. They even brought locks to seal their victims inside, presumably with the intention of burning them alive. The resulting fire was so intense, it left cell walls blackened, and the beds turned to twisted heaps of metal. The riot's aftermath revealed a significant stash of smuggled weaponry within the prison, including 18 pistols, an assault rifle, 2 machine pistols, and 2 grenades. The spokesperson for Honduras' National Police Investigation Agency reported that 26 of the victims were burnt to death, while the rest were shot or stabbed. At least 7 injured inmates were receiving treatment at a hospital in the capital. This death toll surpasses a tragic incident in 2017, when a fire at a female detention center in Guatemala claimed the lives of 41 girls. The fire was started by girls protesting against the rampant abuse and mistreatment they endured in the overcrowded facility. In the last century, Honduras also experienced its worst prison disaster in 2012 at the Comayagua Penitentiary, where 361 inmates died in a fire, possibly caused by a match, cigarette, or some other open flame. Now, if you want to know more about the 18th Street and MS-13 gangs and their most dangerous hitmen, check out these 2 videos.